Today, the first ad for the Indigenous Voice to Parliament was launched, making a point of showcasing a diverse cross-section of Australians. The ad presents a heartfelt plea to all Australians to vote yes.
The whole nation did something about it. People called their friends and families. People talked about it on the streets. And that's how we changed this country for the better. How we made history.
Is that story true?
It could be.
Joining me now is lecturer at the Australian Catholic University, Anthony Dillon. Anthony, thank you so much for joining me tonight. Lovely to see you. Now, look...
Lovely to see you.
Now, look, the ad makes a point of saying that Indigenous Australians currently don't have a voice and that they have no say in matters that affect them. But I don't think that's really true, is it?
No, and Warren Mundine put it very bluntly the other day and said, that's crap. You know, he has a voice, I have a voice. We have the same voice as our white neighbours. And those who are saying that Aboriginal people don't have a voice, they need to make their case clear. How do they draw that conclusion? Because it's not as if Aboriginal people are gagged. In fact, you know, they have NITV, they have access to the same platforms that we have. There's a minister for Indigenous Affairs. So, you know, I just think that's quite ridiculous, so that they are lacking a voice.
Well, yes, I mean, there are 11, I think, Indigenous MPs at the moment. That's certainly quite a lot, you know, which is great. And, you know, speaking of the voice, in an interview with The Australian, Indigenous Affairs Minister Linda Burney, who most definitely has a voice as Indigenous Affairs Minister, clarified a few details, finally, saying that the voice would only focus on issues that, to quote her, directly affect the lives of First Nations people, like domestic violence, housing, land rights, etc., and not things like tax and defence, which some people had put forward. I find that really patronising because it assumes that all Indigenous people have exactly the same concerns and opinions. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of variation within the Indigenous population. And, you know, a lot of the problems they're facing are the same sorts of problems which some, you know, many non-Indigenous people face as well. So, you know, we should focus on the problem, not the colour of the skin sort of thing, and find out, you know, what are the causes of these problems. And, you know, because Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal people have the same basic fundamental needs. And so, you know, I just think there's a danger of the voice giving that message that says Aboriginal people, Indigenous Australians, fundamentally different from non-Indigenous Australians, which they are not.
I mean, I miss so much when the idea of being anti-racist was, you know, the Martin Luther King doctrine of judging people by the content of their character, not the colour of their skin. I'll say it till I'm blue in the face. Now, look, what I find interesting is that the voice seems to be being set up like an advisory committee to consult with Parliament, you know, but how is this different from any of the other advisory committees that have been set up over the years and decades?
Well, that's the question I want an answer to as well, Daisy. And, you know, related to that, I ask myself, what will this voice allow us to do or enable to happen that we can't already do now with the many dedicated, not only Indigenous specific programs and services, but also, you know, mainstream services too, which are, you know, often servicing and addressing issues impacting on Indigenous people as well. So for me, that's the big thing. If you could tell me, well, when we have the voice, it will allow us to do blah, 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 and we can't do that now, you know, I want to know what that is, because, you know, everything is in place. As you said, you know, those previous bodies and all that sort of thing, we've had them in one form or another, and this just seems to be the latest incarnation of that.
Yeah, that's very much my impression as well. And look, since the Yes campaign has already launched ahead, in a very sort of emotive way, the No campaign, wherever that might be coming from, is going to have to take the plunge soon. What do you think they need to do to convince Australians that the voice is a bad idea?
Well, actually, I'm going to disagree a little bit there, Casey. Um, you know, you give a person enough rope and they'll hang themselves. Given that, as far as I can see and you can see, they haven't really made their case very clear. And we saw that, that poll earlier on in Peter Credlin's show where they interviewed people, and those people are like most of the people I've met too. They just don't know what the voice, for those who have even heard of it, just don't know what it is. There's no detail to. So I think that could be the downfall for the voice proponents. And so therefore those who are against it probably don't have to do that much, but other than say, look, we're waiting for the detail. Where is it? What I would like to see done now, Daisy, is whenever we have this referendum, whatever date it may be, there's plenty of time between now and then where the main architects of the voice, they can step forward using their voice and say to Indigenous Australia, this is how we have got ahead in life. This is how we have overcome disadvantage. This is how we are doing so well. Use their voices to give the message now, because they've made it. They've done very well. And I respect all those, the architects of the voice. I don't always agree with them, but I respect them. They've achieved, give credit where credit's due. They've achieved. And they've done it without the voice. They've done it without the treaty. They've done it without constitutional change. Let us know your secret. Let Indigenous Australia know how you've done it. And, I think we already know they've done it. Education, having, being in locations where you can access the sorts of, services that you and I take for granted, that sort of thing.
Anthony Dillon, you are the most wonderful fountain of common sense. I agree with you totally. And perhaps we will see then the No campaign running a similar campaign to the the Monarchist campaign in 1999, which was, if you don't know, vote no. I kind of like that.
Yes. Well done.
Thanks so much, Anthony.